I know God breathe on this.
The
I know
new
God breathe on
brand
this.
for
I know
upcoming
God breathe
creators,
on
the
this. I know
Facebook
God
for
breathe on
creators.
this.
A community of creatives.
That's what collective is to me, is kind of giving creatives a voice.
Welcome home, family. We are back with another episode of Every Human. And in this episode, we're going to be with my good friend, DialTone. DialTone is a rapper. DialTone is a visual artist. DialTone is a father. He's someone who truly embodies what it means to be a creator and express himself in a multitude of ways. And so I'm really excited to talk to him, hear about his creative process and how he takes his passions into all these different disciplines. So let's get into it. Yo,
What's up with
Antonio
it?
Andrews.
That's me.
Tone, DialTone.
Yeah. What's up? What's up, Kills?
Man, everything.
Thanks for having me on here, man.
Of course.
Every human, man. This what's up.
Every Human podcast, man. It's where creators live. My biggest thing is helping creators create and removing anything that disables our ability to create. We believe at Collective, every human is a creator, right? That's where we get every human from. And what that means kind of is for us, we kind of philosophically believe that, God gave us these abilities to think, to write, to create, to problem solve, right? To think for self, right?
Yeah.
To observe, to have foresight, and then to do something about it, right? To have the will, the desire to kind of self-navigate however we choose and to bear fruit throughout that process, right?
Yeah.
And so, when we say every human is a creator, you don't have to be a photographer per se to be a creator.
Right.
You could be an accountant, you know what I'm saying? And the way you run his spreadsheets. My CPA is my mom.
Right.
Man, she be getting super creative around tax season,
Yeah.
bro. You
Yeah.
feel me?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And, when I think about you, you are a true creator in a lot of ways.
Man,
I think
thank you.
primarily because you really allow yourself to express through the medium that makes the most sense for what it is that you're trying to say and how you're trying to say it, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna kick us off there and
appreciate
ask,
that.
who is Tone?
Man, Tone is an artist, a friend, brother, father. Man, just I'm Antonio. The people that know me or grew up with me or whatever, they just who I am today is exactly who I feel like I'm supposed to be. That's who I was when I was a kid. So I don't know. I'm just me. I'm myself.
Yeah. So you personally, would you say the way that you describe yourself now and then in terms of the way that you self-describe, but also the way that you feel like you're perceived, there's probably a linear thread.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like I said, my brothers, my moms, and they know what I was into as a kid and how I don't know, something my mama know about Pharrell and bathing ape or whatever because it's happy, she that's the bathing ape,
Yeah.
So she just know that's what I cared about at the time.
Happy, that's the bathing ape dude.
Yeah, I'm just saying, she just
sure.
and she just I don't know, she just know that's what we cared about at the time, real toughly and I don't know, man. Just like
so
I said,
you've always
my
had
parents,
the reference point for basically individuals that are able to express themselves through whatever.
yeah. And even as a kid, you don't know that you are creative or that you want to be in a creative field.
Yeah.
Especially being from Tulsa, we was pushed into sports. So that's what I did growing up, sports, and the more you get older and see the world, move around, visit different places, and just see a little bit more than where you from, you just start finding out who you really is, and with the help of the internet as well, you just start seeing I don't know, when I got to up in high school, I was like, man, I ain't trying to get tackled. Really?
Yo, that's a fact. You ever wake up one day and be like, no, I don't think I want to get hit today.
Yeah, I just didn't. That's where I got to, at that time, that's when, man, I was like, I'm going to just do this,
Yeah.
And it was the music at first, so it was I'm going to just mess with this,
Okay. So music was your first true art form, you'd say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
So talk to me about music. Who are you as an artist, as a musician? What is
I go
your
by the
music
name
art?
DialTone. It's, I started out, in the music, and, it's really, for me, man, it's, especially these days, it's turned into more of a documentation in the audio kind of format.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to like my older music, and it's just like you'll see how I arrived at the point that I'm arriving to, and it's like, I have to like step back sometime and look at it in the whole like, like all of my work together just to see where I need to go next, So like, yeah, music is just one vantage point, like being able to say it like in words, But that's why I think I really be trying to push a lot of homies to do, try something else sometimes, because sometimes communicating it how you feel in a different way is, I mean, you can make some dope, you know what I mean?
So tell me about that with visual art. How did you go from, okay, I'm communicating what I'm saying lyrically, right, sonically, through music is the art form. Did you then get to the point where you're like, maybe I could say this better visually?
Man, really what it was for me was like the older I got, getting out of school, I didn't go to college. I just, got out of high school, started working and just doing what I, being creative, I look back on it and I just be like, man, it's limited sometimes, like not being educated, like even rap, sometimes I feel like when I write it, I can only speak from a more my education is that because I ain't vocabulary, you got to read books to, and then like as the more I started wanting to communicate how I felt, like visually, it's more about color schemes. It's more about how stuff works together and how like you feel on separate days, more so it's like I'm trying to make a rap song, I gotta be this, just even like the way I came up in music, it was just like the time period I feel like I'm a part of is like, you just gotta be the hard. I mean, this, it's braggadocio. You gotta be the hardest, and like sometimes, like I said, with art, it's like, man, I can like say, I can, show emotion in a different, with just color, simply colors together.
Yeah. One really cool way that I witness you essentially create in all these different forms, but through a linear message, would be Fire in Little Africa.
Yeah.
I would say, right?
Yeah,
In terms of, it's like when I looked at that project, it's like, okay, sonically I hear tone, visually I see tone.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's what you're doing directly or like you by nature being a part of that. Talk to me about the project through the lens of you as a creative.
Man, I think that like Fire in Africa was one of the best times of my life, and like on hindsight, like 2020 is like, I mean, I feel like personally I did it, but it's crazy to say this, but it was really a learning situation for me. And people don't understand, like I started doing visual art in like 2017, so I was just like, I don't know, to be able to work on a Motown album, doing artwork for the album, and it was just like I look back on it, and it's just like, man, like to be able to like learn in that process. I hope that everybody that got to be a part of the process, I hope they really took a learning vantage point from it.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second. To catch people up to speed, Tone was on Fire in Little Africa as an artist, also as a visual artist. In the context of signing Motown, you're doing visual art on the project. You're spitting on the project. Yeah. Tell me what that process was, right? Even from, let's say, on the art side.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, the art side is really the same on everything. It's like you want to say something with your work. You want it to like, because especially with this album, I'm thinking about like, man, they going to be talking about this album the next 100 years. Yeah. So like this stuff, everything has to like.
Yeah. And what do they say? Like, come to you and say, hey, like, create what? Like,
I mean, just like doing the Shining artwork,
Okay.
And it's like, man, make something, for the Shining artwork. And like to keep it 100, like looking back on it, that wasn't my strongest work. I felt like I was just like in a, like I said, hindsight is 2020. What I know now, I didn't know that, and like I felt like at the time I was just working on so much. I just turned that out, and it's crazy. Like I look at it now, and it was a Motown released record, and like, man, like, I mean, you get better with time, and like you learn from your like what you feel like wasn't strong, but I just look back on that and I'm just like, man, like I got to do way more work as a designer, and as like, I need like Cause now, like, it's funny, like, you couldn't get me to go to school, class, but now, like, doing this is like I have to learn what it
Yeah.
is to be a good, you know.
Yeah.
I have to learn, like, or you gonna flop.
Yeah, and you're in a position now where you're starting to do gallery shows, right? You're doing your
Yeah.
own art exhibitions, right?
Right.
So what is that like? I mean, 2017, you're just getting into visual art.
Right.
2020, you're doing single artwork.
Yeah.
For the single on Fire and Little Africa Shining. I know
I did the
next
documentary
month,
cover, you know.
Yeah.
So like I said, all of that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just like, it was just like I was working, but I was like, man, even the documentary cover, I feel like I was able to put my homies in my work,
that
and
was
like,
fire.
you know what I'm saying, and like that type
Yeah.
of stuff is just, man, that's why I do. That's why I
Yeah.
even started it, you
Yeah.
know, and like.
So what does that look like when you think about I know something that's really big for you is like I see you as a collaborative artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I rarely do you see Tone by himself. And I would say that in a creative context, just on the streets,
Yeah.
in any context, it's like you seem like you operate well when you're in union with people that share a similar vision. Like it almost
Yeah.
like accelerates you or gives you that energy to come in and like serve your gift well.
That's the thing about no parking. Like that's like me and Cruz. Like I've been knowing bro since 6th grade, and people know Cruz like should have went D1. Like he was like he's cold with the
Yeah.
hooping, but at the time I didn't know we were just in sports. And like I said, now that we're grown, like being able to like like we took this from an idea of
I was gonna
just,
say, what was that journey with No Parking Studios?
I mean, just like like I said, I came up with the, you know, wanted to do visual art. You know, started doing it by myself, and like I said, I got my homeboy Cruz, my homeboy Darren, Tyler. I met Tyler because we did a show together, and his booth just happened to be next to mine, and he's like one of the only black artists that I see.
Yeah.
You know, he's just right here.
Yeah.
We start talking. All right, we should work on some stuff. You know. And like I said, with Darren, and even Darren, like he grew up on the same, like Hartford is a street that a lot of people grew up on, and like we grew up right on that street. And Cruz, we hooped together, we went to Carver together. So it's like, man, we didn't know we was this. And then the reason why I even made it a collective, because like we didn't have, like, if I would have been like, let's all just go back our separate ways, and I would have been Antonio Andrews painter. You know,
Yeah.
like what is that?
Yeah, it's like you
know?
need infrastructure.
You need a brand. You know,
and you don't got to do that by yourself.
You ain't got to do that by yourself. And it's like, man, that's the thing, is like we didn't have like with nobody telling us to do this.
Yeah.
So it was like I had got the studio up at the mansion, and like I was like, man, y'all could just pull up, and they pulled up. We lived there, and we made work, and that's how we got into doing the Motown stuff and all that. Like,
Yeah.
and that's why I think that the stuff we doing today was built off of all that work. You know,
100%.
like people reference that stuff
Yeah.
from that time. You know, so.
Yeah. What inspires you to say yes to the next thing, right? There's a lot of things that you do.
Man.
It's like you could wake up and choose to make a song. Most days I feel like instead you wake up and go to the art studio.
Yeah, it really just depends on the time. And right now, the art stuff has been taking a lot of my time. But I learned from me, my process is like I do like to make at least one song a day. So I do that like first thing, and like after I take my kids to school, I'll try to record a song. But like, yeah, even man, we doing the with the Bart Center, we doing the Raps 101 with Verse, teaching kids how to rap. So like, I might not be making a song, but I'm teaching these kids how
You're
to write a
putting
song.
into the music economy.
Yes, and
Yeah.
like that's just, you know, like
What do people need, right? Like, and when I think about what Steph's doing in McLean, right? When I think about infrastructurally how we are kind of upskilling, driving the workforce, giving these young kids opportunity. Like
Man.
what does Tulsa, North Tulsa, America, like what do we need in order to solve for a lot of these gaps that you see in this creative economy?
man, that's I mean, I can only speak from where I'm at right at this point, and I like going into like trying to do this Basel thing. I think that it's like, I mean, value. I mean, I think that like even like us from here, like for me personally, I'm just looking to expand no parking globally. Like that brings more opportunities, and I can use that to fund. That's the thing I've been trying to say here. Like the more that they support like artists like us that's here, we gonna spend that money here, and
For
we
sure.
gonna buy, you know, stuff here, and
Yeah.
like, you know, so that's
It's like any market economy. It's like, and this is why I say, like, you know, I always say like creators are the new founders, right? It's like creativity, art, in any level of cultural society evolution right? Like art is at the beginning, right? Whether that's the Renaissance, the Enlightenment era, like anything. It's like the people that are creating the things that go through the eye gates and the ear gates of people,
Facts.
that then creates the culture,
Yes.
right? Of their literal behaviors of
Yes.
where do you shop? Where do you buy?
Right.
Where do you eat? Where do you play? Where do you work? A lot of that is influenced by culture, right?
Yeah.
What is the community? What is the life that you're trying to create? And often, when you invest in creators, right? When you invest in artists, it's going to multiply your ability to
Man.
create culture wherever it
Man.
is that you're trying to.
And it's so crazy. Like, you know, the more we do like work, I start looking at like, man, they think this stuff is easy. They think that, but it's easy for us. But it's like they think that all of this, and like, man, I think like when you was talking, I was just thinking about something simple as like the homie Keno we had this thing for we don't litter out north. You know what I'm saying? And like when I say that to my
I was
kids,
about to say, explain. That's
no,
hilarious.
we don't. And, you know, and like when I see my daughter and her friends, and and they like they throw something on the
Yeah.
ground, like we don't litter out north.
Yeah,
you know? And
this
then
is home.
And now that's what they say. You know, now it's like
That's what
we
I'm
don't
about to
litter out
say,
north.
man.
And that's just all it is.
What
That's
explain-
something
so-
simple as that. You know, that's what creatives do. Like,
I think the density that exists there, and for those who don't know, break down real quick. When you say North Tulsa, what is North Tulsa and why is North Tulsa significant?
I mean, it's just the motherland. It's just like close to downtown, like every ghetto, you know, every hood across America. You know, it's the same. The land is gold. You know, it's like it's just that it's a lot of talent that came from there. It's a lot of like people that was supposed to be, you know, like I said, D1 athletes that fell to the streets and didn't have a.
It's like at one point, 100 years ago, like that was the wealthiest place of Black Americans.
That too,
in America.
Yeah.
Infrastructurally, we understood what happened,
Yeah.
right? A fire burning Little Africa.
Yeah.
That's arguably still on fire,
Right.
As my man Dr. View likes to say. When you think about what happens when a town is still on fire, right? People are still suffering from the ashes, the smoke, the effects, right? Of what happened with the massacre. You now have this era where, you know, you see what's happening with tech. You got Tyrants Block Texture. You see everything that's going on in the market around, okay, there is a rising, right? Of Black Wall Street. There's a rising that's starting to happen literally from the soil where these creatives, these artists are tapped in.
Yeah.
People are moving all across the country, right?
Facts.
To come to Tulsa to be able to tap in. At this point, it's like we have this space where we have the choice to align.
Man.
We have the choice to come together as a community. And in order to do that, in order to make it work, we got to do things like not litter.
Man, something
We have to
simple as
do
that.
things like eat better,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We got to do things like understanding, like if it's time to align, it's like we gotta start integrating the discipline.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? You're a father, you raise a family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When you have a vision, whether that's for a household, for a city, the individuals have to say, yo, like,
That's what we doing. We
Yeah.
agree with that. That's gonna
Yeah.
benefit all of us.
yeah.
That's
You see?
simple.
Do you see that happening? Like, what's your take on that as an artist?
No, I definitely see it happening. Yeah, I definitely see it happening.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like, it's a lot of like. I think the best part about it is like all of us from different sectors. You know, like whether it's film, like with the homie Sneak. Just a
Killer.
lot. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Just a lot of different. That's the best part about it too.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we all like know each other. You know, so it's like for real. Like I'm glad
Stay
that we all
tuned,
know
stay
each
tuned,
other.
stay
So it's
tuned.
like, yeah, man. It's every sector.
Yeah, no, for sure. Talk to me about when you think about, you know, the future, right? You know, there's a lot of things that you could do with your art, right? You could do with your music. I know you're starting to get into galleries. How, as an independent artist, as an independent creator, right? You have your own studio. You're starting to build your own infrastructure. Starting to partner to create, combine the communal infrastructure. How do you think about monetization, right? As an independent artist, because it's like the sacrifice that we have to take, right? Of sacrifice, if you will. There's always an opportunity cost for every decision. At one degree, it's like, yeah, you know, I don't want to do this, you know, W-2 life and living 9 to 5, and you know, I want to be able to be free. But then within that, you have to be able to create your own deal flow. You have to be able to have opportunities that align with your values that still, at the end of the day, pay for these expenses, right? So how do you navigate that?
Oh man, honestly, it's been God first of all, cause like stuff that don't work out that I say yes to or something, and it's like it turns out not to be good, not to be
Mm.
what I should have done. Another one is just like you got to have an overall plan, and then like as opportunities come, it's like that's what I align with my overall plan
Mhm.
from what I want no parking to be,
Mhm.
and it's just that simple. I had to learn that, like just not taking when it first started working for me, I was just taking all the yeses, but then I was like, man, I don't really want to do a motorcycle helmet, just random stuff that don't align with kind of brand I'm trying to build.
Yeah.
I ain't saying I love the bikers, but I'm just saying like I just stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's just all about you got to make sure you know what you want,
Yeah.
and then you got to see what comes, and you line that with.
How did you know when it was time to create like a studio, right? Versus
Mm,
like, okay, I could just be, making stuff, whether at home or, oh, now you're raising up artists underneath you. Like,
yeah.
how did you know, okay, going from individual into, okay, let me create this entity that I can run systems and individuals through?
Like for me, man, I really like as like working a 9 to 5. I was working 9 to 5, 5 to 10 for
Yeah.
man. People don't like. I did that for 6 months, and like, cause I was like, man, I don't even know how I can afford to pay $400 for a studio. It's just the money I was making. I'm looking at what
Hmm.
I'm making, and I literally like, all right, I took that first. I had saved up some bread, paid 3 months of my studio, and got to work.
Yeah.
And like, it's like I'm starting to learn how to like pull resources and money out of the city. It's
Yeah.
like a lot. I tell people this all the time. It's a lot of money in the free stuff. I do a lot of boring work. I do a lot of
Hmm.
I do a lot of like filling out stuff, and
Yeah.
the money's in the boring work. And I like being a creative is like I could wake up on a high every day and just twirl around and with my
Yeah.
paintbrush and
Yeah.
just paint, but it don't work. That ain't realistic.
Yeah.
That's not if you want to make a living off of it and be. It's not realistic. Some days I just do straight email. Some days
Mm.
I don't create nothing. I try to make. I try to make a song a day, but I don't just get to sit up in my studio and be cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I have to find those like 2 in the morning, and then I can chill.
What do you want that to look like 5 years from now?
Man, 5 years from now, I really just want to be a No Parking Studios to be like a design and art company at work out of North Tulsa that's working with various brands, various kids, just being a design studio based out north.
Yeah.
That's working with a lot of different high end brands.
Yeah.
Like, and what that would mean for out north is like we'll be able to cultivate these kids coming in, out of school to be able to work on projects before they even touch college.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
And
That's
it's like now we're giving people something to do. Now we allowing
yes,
people to see themselves and what they're creating.
exactly.
And
What
it's
they
like
wearing,
we
what
can
they
do more than just be talent on the field, on the
man.
court. And yeah, it's like, yes, go to college, right? Like if that's the path for you, but how do you literally create value now?
Mhm.
Yeah, for others, but also so you see it for yourself, right? Because
Yeah,
now you know what you have the capacity to do, right? You
man.
know, oh wow, like I as a human being individual could literally wake up and create value,
Yeah,
like just from me.
just from me.
Yeah,
And man, people don't understand like this how like I grew up in church, but these last 2 years I've really learned what faith really is.
Mm.
And like I gotta have real faith, and like it's crazy how like it just works out.
yeah,
It's crazy how it works
yeah,
out. And like the more I put out, and the more I even put my like, oh man, this might not be an opportunity for me, but for the homie,
hmm,
like it always just circles back.
yeah,
And like I said, I don't know if it's just the city I'm in or
yeah,
the ecosystem I'm in or what, but I just do believe it. I do have faith in that.
yeah,
It's gonna all work out,
yeah.
and it just keep growing.
Yeah, I think that's why we got to stay aligned. I think the more aligned that we are with self, the more capacity there is for acceleration. The more we are aligned with people, it's like when I always say when alignment exists, like acceleration, you know what I mean,
Yes,
happens.
happens. Yeah.
It's like envisioning like a channel where it's like where you have like a channel like of water where it's like once it kind of all comes together, it's going downstream. It's like
It speeds up. Yeah.
yeah, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And I think that's what's happening now. I think that's what can happen for our world. I think that's also what can happen for our people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why is it important? I think a lot of the work that you do is around amplifying honestly Black people's ability to create, right? Whether it's kids, whether it's just creatives directly, it's like there's a certain value it seems like you have in allowing Black people to express.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all about like I said, if I just know what it does for me, you know, like therapeutic, like therapy wise, and like it's just about like taking somebody, like I said, if I meet an artist on the street today that's working out of their room, and I take them to the to a studio. When they leave that studio, they're gonna be wanting to make a million more paintings, you know, because they realize that it's somebody down here that's working on. And I don't even, it ain't. I'm just a vessel. It could be any person in this seat, you know. So it's like I ain't trying to flex it on you. I'm not saying, you know, this is my
flex
studio.
it on his tone. Flex it
No,
on.
I'm not
flex
going.
it on his.
I'll flex it on who, you know, on the right. But I'm saying on kids and on people that's trying to get into it. I just tell them like, this is right here, you know, and like. Just I don't know. It's like recording a high end studio for the first time. You know, like I get to be an artist in the studio, and he letting me use all his stuff, and man, and like I'm gonna say this because like when I got the studio, it's like I was like, man, I went from having one studio to working out of 3 studios. And then that's called abundance. You know, like you gotta have an abundance mentality. So then it was to the point where it was like, man, I can let these people work out of this studio because I can't work out of home, my clean hand studio, and you know, like that's, come on. How can I ain't gonna get no work done because I'm too busy moving around. So I start letting people, you can use the space. Hey, if you need do something big, clean hands, like, and they don't care, you know, I'm paying them rent, so they don't care, you know, and like, that's what it turned into me, abundance, because I work out of the crib mostly now. So, because that's where in my garage, you know, that's what I've been trying to get. And like, I went from not being able to afford one studio to being able to give a studio away. Like, I literally can't have time to be here.
Yeah,
you know?
I was about to say.
No, that's just real talk, man. I ain't trying to flex. Like, it's just real.
But I think, that's what happens. Also, like when you create and your creations create, I think that is where you're actually creating sustainably. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, we shouldn't be in a position, like, we not on a plantation where it's like, hey, we do this thing, we come take the thing back to massa. He's like, all right, bet, good job. Here, I'm gonna break you off. Whatever. Like, you lucky. You know what I'm saying? It's like, bro, what do we talk? Like, bro, everything that we go kill, we bring back into the house. We say, okay, what do we now want to do? Boom. We go back. We make those decisions. We come together. We bring together what we have. We go out. We go get more. Like, it can be more of a sustainable process.
That's what I think is missing, though. Like, what you're saying right now is like, because I be seeing a lot of art studios going up around in the city, and I'm like, I mean, I'm like, I feel like I ain't gonna say I feel like I'm one of the main artists here, you know, and like, man, I don't like, these people ain't buying work, you know. How these artists gonna afford these studios? Like, if y'all don't champion the work in the, you know, from as the community and put it on y'all walls and tell people like, these straight from here, you should be, you know. And that's where I feel like a gap is at too. Like, they want to cultivate this artist community and say with it, but like, go to their house and see how many Tulsa artists is on their walls, and come on, like, be for real. So how can artists pay $600-$800 rent if y'all ain't got it on y'all wall?
Or for the art that is on the walls, or for the records that may be on their shelves? I mean, like, what did those artists get from those things?
Come on, and then y'all won't hit like, and people, they'll love your work, but it's like that's what I'm saying. I've been really focusing on, like, Instagram is one of the biggest liars, you know. And I tell people that, like, don't get caught up in your Instagram numbers, because I did for a minute, and like, especially with visual art, man, it don't matter if it's 7 people at where I'm at. One of those 7 people can spend $2,000 with me. It's not about, you know, and like, Instagram my followers going up, my engagement going down. But in real life, like, you know what I'm saying?
In real life, you literally want the opposite. I literally want to talk to less people every day, and I literally want the depth of those relationships to go up.
Man, I know what you mean.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I think that gets you closer to the density of what it is that you are, what you're actually trying to extract.
Yes. It's the fluff.
Yeah.
Get the fluff out the way.
Yeah.
For real.
Get the fluff out the way.
Fluffy boys.
Get the
fluff
fluffy
off
boys.
it. No, for real though.
Yeah.
I mean,
when you think about what you as a human need to create and what you think other humans need to create, would you say it's more so time, money, relationships, or technology?
That's a hard one because I think I think it's like some with technology I can get, you know, money. You
Okay,
know, or
meaning
you
like
know,
if you have access to technology, you can create with that technology what you need.
Yeah. Um, that's a hard. I mean, I think from our standpoint where we at in Tulsa, I think we need money.
Yeah.
Cause
Why
like
and why do you say that specifically?
because I just know what we'll do with the money, and
It's
I know like
we got the people,
we got the people,
we got the models,
we got the model, we
Yeah.
got like, and they know like it's known, you know, like they see the ecosystem. People are championing in the city. Like Tulsa's one of the greatest,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like of course, but it's like until these artists are being able to go buy a Porsche, and these kids can see these artists being successful, like that, like even like Atlanta, like imagine Atlanta, but like I'm gonna say
If
the
people,
opposite.
if people didn't have stuff to show for it.
They just don't got nothing to show for it.
Literally, Atlanta is Atlanta. I would say arguably because often it's like Atlanta's one of the most expressive cities in the world. I would say almost where, from what you wear to what you drive to everything is a decision for like how do I want to show who I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes, and I'm not saying, I think it's the same thing why you have a resume, for example, sometimes, right?
Yeah.
It's similar but different. It's like a resume is like, yo, no, I'm not particularly trying to flex. I just want you to have an objective understanding of the historical experience that I've had, right?
Yeah.
And so
if it didn't work, they wouldn't be doing it.
yeah, and now I can use this thing when it's time for me to apply for this job or to say blah blah blah. It's like, yo, like here is this piece of paper that can relatively communicate who I am, what I do, or you know, collective portfolio more preferably. And I think in that context, it's like whether it's Tulsa, wherever, it's like we gotta see what we want to be. We could say, hey man, Tulsa's on the rise, North Tulsa, we're rebuilding Black Wall Street, da 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 da. I was just like, man, well, I live on Greenwood Ave.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I know what I experience when I'm downtown, and I know who does and doesn't have access to broadband in my neighborhood, for example. And so it's like, it's one thing to be able to say, hey, let's create, let's do. And it's like, it's another thing to be able to look at people in your own community. When I was in Atlanta, I had a Black doctor, I had a Black lawyer, I had Black teachers, there was an abundance of reference points of success, if you will. And I often say, I think Tulsa communally is way more integrated with itself than Atlanta, I would say, especially the Black community. Like, it's in North Tulsa, like, one person, everybody. It's like that in Atlanta too, but in Tulsa, it's like, but like, like I know him. Like, no, that's my third grade professor, or like, that's my cousin's, or hey, we do business together. And so it almost creates more fluidity of channels, right? So it's like in Atlanta, you have more Black millionaires, right? But in somewhere like Tulsa, I would argue you have a more connected Black community. So that when you do actually start gaining more wealth in the community, it could collaborate amongst itself, communicate amongst itself, and accelerate a lot more exponentially, arguably, than in cities where our communities are way more siloed.
I like how you said that.
I
like how you put that together.
You got a master's degree. I got a little bit of vocabulary.
Real good
I can't
right
rap
there.
and put it into songs. But I
that's
got the
exactly
words,
what you're saying. Is exactly what I feel. Like, that's what I think the best part about Tulsa is right there. What you're saying.
Yeah, and it's a lot of that potential. I see it as like potential energy that's about to bust into kinetic energy. Like right when that inertia has the ability to go.
Man,
so
that's real talk.
All right,
there.
before we wrap it up, let me know when you hear the term "every human is a creator." What comes to mind? What do you think? What do you envision?
Man, I just think about like you said. I mean, like it says, every human is a creator. Like, oh man, a story about my pops.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know growing up. I didn't know what my pops wanted to do as a kid. As a, I look at my pops like my pops.
Yeah.
But as I got older and oh man, you got a song with Charlie Wilson. I used to want to DJ, and he started pulling out all that stuff.
Oh snap!
And you just like, yo, I ain't never seen my pops smile growing up, but he got pictures where he was like mixing, and I said, you ain't never show us none of this. And he's like, I didn't want y'all to be in the music business. He's like, I didn't. And like, I don't know, it's just crazy. Like you said, every human's like, I never would have thought my pops. At
Do you
that
think
time,
that's because he had to see it? Like, it's almost like I had to see my son on a record with Charlie Wilson and be like, oh shit, like let me get my stuff out the closet. Like let me literally
let me tell him about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
or
let me tell him
let me allow myself to come forward.
Exactly.
Like even probably that self-identification of like for himself of like, yo, I am a creator. Like, oh shit, like nah, bro, let me go
think
pull
about
this
the
shit
place
out
he
the
went
closet.
back mentally.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And that was probably joy. That like, if you think about that space, it even just like father son in that moment that you could have of like, yo, like we are doing the kid thing, like we are expressing ourselves without limitation.
Right. And I never, like I said, if you would ask me, my pops was if they would have ran up and said, man, your pops was a DJ growing up, I would have been like, yeah, mom, bro, come on,
Yeah.
But nah.
Yeah, I think sometimes as we go through life, we kind of allow life sometimes to suppress our creator.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And and that's survival.
It
often,
is.
because I think creative expression is the highest form of self-actualization. Like when you have the ability to wake up, create. I'm gonna go to the studio. I'm gonna send these emails. It's like, yeah, we still trying to bust and grind, and but it's like, yo, I have the luxury to wake up and create every day.
Facts. And like, yeah, it ain't got. I mean, I ain't got jaded, but like I still wake up with that spirit of like, just thankful.
Yeah.
Like I'm able to like, just wake up and like people like my ideas. Some certain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, it's like next to God. I feel like,
Hey.
like that feeling like of being able to like. That's why I think it's like the energy in the world is just like creatives are
children of God.
Yeah, facts. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, boss.
Man, for real.
Sure.
Yeah.